Okay, so in case someone wants to see my live face, now I'm live. Okay, so welcome everyone once again, and this is week 2. It's 14 days. We started. Today makes it the 14th day, and I believe, just as I stated earlier, we've learned a lot. I remember someone reached out to me, was it last night or yesterday, that even though he has not been able to engage as he expected in terms of he's a very busy person and all that, the video of that, the last session we had last week, had really helped him, and he has learned a lot in the course of engaging the like what we have prepared for you, the day-to-day task, as well as the various recommended videos and all. So I'd just like to take quick feedbacks from us. How has it been? I know we have in the house, we have Ola Elvis, we have Olajide, Tolu, Rachel, Sally, Tokwe, and Toib. So just a quick feedback from us. How has it been? And we can also talk about maybe well, I wouldn't want us to discuss challenges now. Hopefully, if you're able to finish early, we can look at that. And I'm also looking at the possibility of we having a live session on Monday, being a public holiday, just out of the box, just to, do a catch-up conversation on Monday on how the first 2 weeks has been and what are our challenges and all. So I would like to take just one or two feedbacks before our facilitator come at the start his session. Anyone to give us that feedback? Is there anyone that wants to give us the feedback? And you can also use the chat in case you're in a place where maybe you can't really communicate verbally. You can use the chat. Just want to take one or two feedback. How has it been? 14 days of learning, something to learn every day. Have we been making progress? Have we been maximizing the content? How has it been? Am I even audible? Can someone confirm again if I'm audible? Am I? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, Rachel, please go ahead. Let's hear from you, Rachel. You can use just one word. Thank you for that feedback. So, Rachel, how has it been? Have you been learning?
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Yeah,
I've been learning. It's really a great impact, really. Although Excel is something I knew some things actually
okay.
before, but I'm really learning more. At least
Yeah.
I'm really learning more, which
Wow,
is better.
that's great. That's great. Has it been
Yeah.
overwhelming? Let me just ask. That was a feedback I got a few days back that this course is
Okay.
overwhelming.
Yeah, though, yeah, it is. Because at some point, I'm always
Okay.
after the fact that I have a task to meet up with.
Yeah.
But it's really open because it's really it takes away procrastination because you know I have to submit this task today. So
Fantastic.
it really made practicing better for me.
Wow. Wow.
It's
Wow.
made it better for me because I
Wow.
am always on my laptop daily now because I know I have a task to meet up with, which
Fantastic.
is very better. Thank you very much,
Awesome.
sir.
Awesome, Rachel. Wow. That's a great feedback. And let me just take that as majority feedback. And I also see I can see your feedback, Tolu. I've been learning a lot. That's awesome. So just as I shared in the first week, a similar thing also happened this week where I was asked to also do a simple task, still on Excel, and I just have to deploy my skills to do it. And I was able to achieve it within a short space of time. Of course, as an analyst, Excel, or even, as an accountant and an analyst, or probably you're a data person, or maybe an HR or a salesperson, you always find yourself using Excel every day. So we all have our Excel story on some tasks we have been given that you need to go and watch YouTube, to check and deliver. But part of the goal of this challenge is just to help you get these skills so that from, let's say, October, when you are done with the 4 weeks, you have your confidence level will increase. And if you have an interview, or better still, you have an assessment or something, or even a friend just walk up to you and ask you, like, can you help me with this task? This is what I want to do in Excel. They are aware that you've gone for an Excel training, it will boost your morale that, okay, yes, I can do this. This is how you go about it. And you learn in the course of doing that as well. No man is an island of knowledge. So the truth is, even where I work now, I've solved quite a lot of problem on Excel since I joined the team. But the summary is, in the course of doing this, I've learned a lot. So, and that is why, just as our motto in AMG is mastery is possible, the more you practice, the more you perfect your skills, your ability to know, that knowing, you get it refined in the course of practice. And which is part of the motive for AMG to organize, time management, negotiation, and also this portfolio class that we'll have in week 4, and also how you can deploy these skills to make money, because we know some of you, after this challenge, you may not have anything that will make you to use Excel at this level again. So you could be getting jobs. I am available to support you, and we share the money, and you could do it yourself. But the essence of this is such that when you know this skill, you can get jobs, you can reach out to your friends, your uncles that have businesses. Oh, uncle, I can help you do a template. Just pay me 50K and it's done within 2 days, 3 days. And you can get 2 or 3 of your guys that you do this challenge together. We want to deploy this particular template for this person. This is how much I'll pay you. You do this part to bring it together, join all the sheets together and make sense out of it. These are things that can happen. So that's why we are doing this, not just the knowledge. So even after now, if you're afraid that, how will I continue to use this? I can tell you for a fact, there are many ways that you can keep up with this knowledge even after this challenge. And that's what I'll be doing later in this course. So thank you so much, everyone. Just as it's our culture, in case you are in a place where it's quite distracted, I'm at home. If you are probably still in transit, focus on your driving. If you are driving and you join, you can listen. This video will be uploaded to YouTube within few hours after the session for us to make reference to. But if you are in a place where you can control your environment, please avoid distractions. We are looking at Power Query and some advanced data analysis function. Some of this you meet next week. So it's already available for next week, but we want to prepare you ahead of what you learn next week so that it's not too difficult for you to understand while you engage next week courses. And if you have any of the questions, we'll have time to look at questions afterwards. So I want you to sit back, be in a distraction-free environment, put your phone on Do Not Disturb so that you are less distracted, and we look forward to an awesome session. Bremanuel, please confirm you are there.
Yes,
Hey, Bremanuel, are you
yes,
there?
good evening. Can you hear me? Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, I can, but probably you need to speak a bit louder. Well, maybe it's my device, but it looks faint. It's not too clear, but I can hear you. I can hear you. Okay.
Okay, I believe you'll be able to hear me well now.
Okay, yes, I can hear you now. So, Emmanuel Adida will be the one to help us with this. With today's session, is an expert data and market research analyst. I shared his profile. If you follow us on LinkedIn, you can check his profile. He's one of the experts in the group, and he's someone that's been with us from inception, from day one of AMG, and he's still very much with us. So these are experts you can't afford not to be in touch with. So, and it doesn't end here, guys. It doesn't end here. So maybe during this season, you have an interview, you have an assessment you need to write, and you are confused. You can reach out within the community. That's why we are here. So I will leave the floor to him now to take us through Power Query and every other thing he has prepared for us to learn this evening. Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for honoring our invitation for this particular challenge. And thank you all that have joined. Have a nice class. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
All right, thank you so much, Bratobi. So good to be here. Good evening, everyone. And I trust you've been having an interesting section learning and putting in your best to learn. So I say congratulations to you. So if peradventure you are in a job now, or you are looking forward to switching your career to become an analyst, probably financial analyst, data analyst, market analyst, any form of analyst you are looking forward to be, I would say congratulations. It's so good to see people strive to develop themselves in their various skills or or based on any tool. So my name is Emmanuel again. I don't want to do too much of introduction. Share my screen now. Today I'll be talking purely on Power Query and Power Query in Excel. And like I said, like I do say, I've not said here, so Excel is a beautiful tool to use. And I'm very sure while in the last 14 days, you've seen that it's not about the tool itself, it's about how you can solve problems. So the tool is just like an hammer. An hammer is used to solve a problem. A chisel is used to solve a problem. Excel is used to solve a problem. So it's about how you can critically think and use Excel to solve a problem. So one of the things I would encourage you to do is to develop your ability to solve problems, which is develop your resilience in your mind to know that I can solve this problem. There's a lot of resources out there that can help me solve this problem. So you see Excel as a tool, not a means to an end. It's just a tool for you to solve a problem. So let's just kickstart. Let's kickstart. It's good to see everyone. I would love to know everyone. Mayomide, Elvis, Oladeji, Olajide, Pupola. It's good to have you. And for those who old guys of what known me, and so good to see you back again if you have seen me in any class before. Okay, let's just kickstart immediately. Let me share my screen and let's get to hit the ground running. Okay, please confirm you can see my screen. Hello, please can someone confirm you can see my screen?
Yes, sir. I can.
Okay, thank you.
One more person can confirm.
Okay, and probably one more person confirm.
I can.
All right, thank you. So like you said, this is a live expert section, Power Query in Excel. So my name is Emmanuel. I'm the Data and Strategy Manager at Betty Distribution. And so I'm also a market analyst. I also train. I trained at Infinix. I've trained at LRS, and I'm still training. I've trained data marketers on market analysis. And so I do a lot of trainings also. And I'm also a trainer at AMG. Thanks to Bratobi giving me the opportunity to train. So today, our core objective is to understand Power Query. But before you understand Power Query, let me just start so that it will help someone here. Adventure, you're still in Excel, she's struggling with Excel. One of the things when I get into Power Query, you might look like, one of the things, it might look like a rocket science. But one of the things I've learned in a few months is that there are some things you don't know, but you know them. It's when you encounter issues that your mind picks up those information. There's some things I'm trying to solve a problem in my current work, and the solution is from something I've learned a long time ago. I'm like, I saw this, I'd worked on this thing before, and I just go to my YouTube and search for some of the videos, and I solve the problem. And sometimes I just like, I've seen something like this before. So don't trip off, don't lose concentration. Even though it might look like rocket science, ask your question in the chat box, or when it's time to ask questions, ask questions. But focus your attention. Do as if you must think like, I'm now absorbing this in that I may need it later, even though I may not need it now. So Power Query in Excel is like adding a power, adding how would I say, adding more power to, like, let's say a bike, a keke napep. You now had a Ferrari engine inside a keke napep. That it's a keke napep, its functionality, it can't function more than keke napep, but the engine inside would make it do more than it's expected to do. And that's what Power Query does in Excel. It gives us more ability to do a lot of things. And one of the things to do is ETL, which means extract, transform, and load. I will talk about that. And also, the core objective is for you to understand ETL and also understand how to use Power Query to wrangle data. So let me give you this bad news. It's a bad news. So if you are looking to join the data analyst work at a time, 60% of your work, I don't want to use 70, so someone will not run away and I'm not doing again, is you're fighting data. It's not as if you're doing analysis. 60% of your work, you're fighting with data. Is that you're fighting with the data cleanliness, probably you're working with the dirty data, or you're fighting with structuring the data, or how you're looking at how the data connects. Majority of organizations in Nigeria don't have data engineers who would help them clean their data, model their data, and all you just come to do is just analyze as a data analyst. Majority of companies in Nigeria don't have data engineers. So you're the one as a data analyst that will do the engineering work, that will do the data analyst work, that will still do the data scientist work. So you just to prepare your mind that you must be able to, and the core of data engineer is ETL, which is extract, load, and transform. We'll talk about that later. So what we are trying to do here is for you to be able to know the tool you'll be able to use for the 60% of your work. So when you're doing your analysis tutorial, you see a clean data, you just analyze, you do a beautiful chart in Excel, you're happy. No, when you get to the real work, data is dirty. Data is everywhere. You need to put them together and make them connect and make them speak together, make them connect together. So that's why you need to understand Power Query. You need to understand how you can use Power Query to wrangle data, to clean data, to connect data together. All right, so let's start. Let's talk about ETL. ETL means extract, transform, and load. So what does this mean? It means that for every organization, there's a place where they extract their data from. Let's use an example. Twitter has a lot of data. Facebook has a lot of data. The moment you on your page, you said hello everybody, and you posted it on your Facebook page, that's a data point in itself. So how does Facebook extract how does Facebook deal with all these data? So it's basically, there are different forms. There's ETL, there's ELT, but let's just focus on ETL. It means that Facebook extracts the data. There's a way you extract your data. They load it, they transform the data and load it. I think Facebook is more complex. Let's just use a transaction, a business, a small business. Someone comes to let's use bank. Yes, bank is very key. You do a transaction in your bank. The date, and you can recall that transaction you did some months back. What happened? When you did that transaction, on the back end, the bank would extract that information. They would transform it and load it. So when you say load it, it's like you are seeing a good visualization probably on your app. Let's use an OPay app, for example. You go to your previous last month transaction. You are not saying it's scattered. Everywhere is already arranged. The transaction you did yesterday, the first day, everything is arranged. That's the endpoint, which is the loading. So let's not break it down. That's just an example. So ETL stands for extract, transform, and load, and is a critical process in data integration and warehousing. So these are just big words. Data integration is just making your data connect. Warehousing is where you store your data. So for every transaction, the fact that I could recall probably in my bank transaction, I can recall a transaction that happened 1 year ago. It means that the transaction was more like warehouse, where the whole transaction is saved. So now, before it's being saved, there's a process, which is the bank extract the information, they transform it. There's a way they transform it and they load it to your own interface, what you can see. So the ETL is just used to move data from multiple sources. You are doing your transaction. Someone in Abuja is doing their own transaction. Someone in another country is doing their own transaction. So there are different sources of data. So how do these data connect? The bank would extract all this data, they would transform it and load it. And so that's what basically ETL means. It just means how to clean data, how to wrangle data, how to make a data point useful. That's just the process. The process where you do the transaction, how do you make it useful? Probably 1 month later or 3 months later. So these are just definition. Data is used to move data from multiple sources into a central repository, such as a data warehouse, where it can be analyzed and used for decision making. Your job as an analyst is to use data to make decisions. But at the same time, those data might be clean, might not be clean. Those data are coming from different sources. So how do you make decisions from data coming from various sources? And that is where Power Query comes in. And Power Query is like is a minimum. many of the companies use sophisticated forms of ETL, but I just want you to understand why we talk about. We can just go into the Power Query immediately, but why do you need Power Query? That's what I want you to understand. That's why I want you to understand ETL first, and basis of it. So businesses aggregate, clean, and standardize data to derive meaningful insight. So the process of aggregating, cleaning, and standardizing data is called ETL. Don't forget that. The process of aggregating, which is extract from different sources. Cleaning, which is transform the data. Probably the data is dirty. Probably there's so much of unwanted columns. That's clean. And loading is basically where you standardize the data to derive meaning from. So that is the basis of ETL. Let's talk about the key components. I've talked about this. Extract means the process of collecting data from various sources of system, which can include relational database, flat file, any form of thing. So it's just about where you can get all the data from. Your company is in Abuja. They have branch in Lagos. They have branch in Ikorodu. So how do they extract this data together and bring it to a point? Then when they aggregate this data, transform means cleaning, formatting, and converting the data to different and standardizing the data. Sometimes the data many of us are used to data of what? Sometimes data is a video. When you post a video on Facebook, it's a data point. When you post a picture on Facebook, it's a data point. So how do they extract all this data and standardize it? That's transform. Let's talk about loading. Is just the final step where it's been loaded into a warehouse for decision making. And sometimes at the base learning level, you load it into probably Power Query to Power BI so you can visualize. That's why sometimes Power Query to Excel so that you can do your analysis on it. But the process from the process of the data points being meaningful, there's a process, and the process is what we are talking about, which is ETL. Let's move on. So what is the workflow? What's the ETL workflow? Don't forget, ETL means extract, transform, and load, which is the process of making a data point useful. Step one, data extraction. We've talked about this, data transformation and data loading. Now let's go to where we are. What is the relation between Power Query and ETL? So sometimes you're in an interview, that talks about Power Query. They may not ask you Power Query first. They ask, do you even understand the basis of data wrangling, which is basically ETL? Do you understand that? Do you understand the process? Do you understand what goes on in the process? So that's why I'm taking my time to explain this first before we go into Power Query itself. So let's talk about Power Query and ETL. So Power Query simplifies the ETL process. Like I said, there are different ways. There are different ways a different company extract their data. Minimum is Power Query will just simplify the process for you, and we'll run through an example as we go on. So Power Query simplifies the ETL process into a series of steps that are applied in sequence. You will see when we get there. So instead of you going through the process of different forms of tech stack, some organizations use different forms of tech stack. Power Query can be your own company ETL, where they get their data from probably a software. They load it into Power Query. Then in Power Query, you clean the data. Then you load it into Power BI or you load it into Excel. That's the ETL process. Some company has more sophisticated form of ETL process, but the base minimum is that you get your data from any form of sources your company get data from. You load it into Power Query, where it is being transformed. Where you clean, you remove unwanted column, you remove unwanted spaces, you do anything at there, then you load it into Excel or Power BI to visualize. So Power Query simplifies ETL. It not means that, and I want you to understand it, it means that if your company, you've done the process, you've cleaned your data for this month, you don't need to repeat the same step again for next month. All you just need to do is just load your data into the source where you extract your data into. Then automatically Power Query would impute the process you've done in your first data into the data you've added to it. this might be difficult in terms of explaining, but we'll see the process when we get there. So it's just a series of steps that is applied in sequence. These steps are recorded in Power Query Editor and can be refreshed automatically when the underlying data changes. We'll see that in practical step. I think we'll talk about this: extract, transform, and load. Now, let's get into the practical aspect. But don't forget, for you as an analyst in different form, you must understand what ETL means. It's the base minimum you must understand. You must understand the process of data wrangling. So majority of analysts focus on analysis itself, but the quality of your analysis is based on the quality of your data. So if your data is not well wrangled, is not well cleaned, or your data source is questionable, then the quality of analysis will be questioned. And that's the first thing you must understand, your quality of your data. So, and for you to have a quality data, you must understand the process where you extract the data, you transform the data, and you load the data. So I see someone raising up their hand. We'll get to, I'll get to the point where you would ask question now. So now, okay. Is there anyone who has questions concerning ETL and would like me to go back or explain something before we get into Power Query practical in practical times? Someone raised, I saw someone raising their hands. You can unmute yourself and ask question.
Yeah, Mr. Toby already answered that because I keep hearing Power Query, Power Query. I was thinking probably the different software. Sorry, I don't know, maybe okay. Because I did not join.
Right, sorry. Okay, so Power Query is an integrated, is an add-on to in Excel. So it's not a different. So if you're using probably Excel 20, older Excel, you might not have Power Query, but the 2016, 2013 has Power Query inbuilt into it. So it's just, it's an add-on that is used to clean data. But for you should use clean data. It might not sound sophisticated. It's to wrangle data. And the wrangle data talks about what I just mentioned, the ETL: extract, load, extract, transform, and load data. So it's more like is a place where you can do these three things. It's integrated into Power BI. It's also integrated into Excel also. You will see what it is like when we enter into Excel itself. Is there any other question? Okay, so if there are no question, let's move on to Excel and start the practicality of what Power Query is. Stop sharing my screen. Let me share my Excel sheet. Okay. All right. Okay. Now, please confirm you can see my screen. This is a blank Excel sheet, which I believe in the last 3 weeks, you have interacted with this interface, and for some who are expert in the interface, it's good to have you. And for those who are new, there's nothing bad. Everything starts in a day. Everything starts in one day. Just take your time to understand what I'm doing and why it's necessary. Okay. Now, this is what your interface would look like. Your Excel interface will look like. And the norms you know is that you just probably open a document and it has a lot of data in it. That's probably what you're used to. But an example is that, let's assume your company is like the bank. Every day there's transaction happening in the bank. And let's assume your bank uses Excel. Majority of banks use Excel. Don't use Excel as their data warehouse. I'm just assuming now the bank uses Excel. So the transaction happened today. Let's use an example. Today 19. Let's say an example. This is the column you have the date, the type of transaction. Let's that as an example. So today a transaction happened, and this is the type of transaction happened. Let's say today, the 9/14. Just follow me. 2014. this to this, and this transaction, the type of transaction was a transfer. For amount. This is just hypothetical. 50,000 was transferred. Now, this is the transaction that happened today. I'm very sure in a bank, transaction can be up to 300 or sometimes thousands of transactions happen in a day. This is a transaction that happened in a day. Tomorrow, if another transaction happens, what would you do? You come and paste it. You come and paste, well, this is the transaction that happened for tomorrow. Next tomorrow, you come and paste again. But there's high probability that you will make a lot of mistakes if you approach your data like that. So that means you're not even going through the standard process. You're just copying and pasting, which is prone to a lot of errors. And sometimes where you're copying from, you might still need to do some cleaning. Probably just copy a wrong data into your transaction table. That is why it's not advisable for a company, quote unquote, to approach their data like this. And that is why we have Power Query to help. Power Query would help you clean, extract the data. I've said this over 1 million times. Don't worry, you know what I'm saying is extract the data, help you load. In that place, transform the data. In that place of transforming, that is where the real work is. Now, so let's change that. For us to, I don't know if you're on your system. If you're on your system, you can do that. Let me just send the data we are going to be using, the chat box, or send to, so we are going to be using a lot of data. And this data is data you can get from Kaggle. It's a public data. And also as an analyst, you must be careful of the data you are using. Make sure that it's not a data from any company, so that you don't get sued or you don't end up in prison. I know it's funny, but it's actually possible. So I'm trying to send them the data point to Toby now, so that you can share on the group and you can follow along.
Okay, bro Emmanuel, just to quickly add this, you can share the data, but what we recommended, because of the limited time, is to take the participant through it, because this video will be available. So then they can then practice, and if there are now questions, they can share in the group. So because of the limited time, we don't want a case where you are being drawn back and all that. So you can just take us through it as we watch, and then everyone create time tomorrow to practice in details. Thank you.
All right, that's fine. Okay, all right. Now let's load in our data. We talked about extract, which is basically getting your data from different sources. So for us to load in our data, we come to data, and there are different options here. This is a data tab, and this is a ribbon. There's a get and transform ribbon, which is the first two-step of ETL, extract and transform, which is same thing as get and transform. And under this ribbon, we have get data. This is showing us that you can get data from different sources, from a file, from a database. If your data is connected to, if your company data is connected to a database, you can connect Excel to a database. From Azure. Azure is also Azure. Sorry, from Azure is also a form of the database, which is actually just Microsoft database. From Azure, from any online source, from other sources, probably from a table, from a web, from any form of sources. And at this point, you can measure, and you have not got in there, but this is just showing that you have ability to get data from different sources, and which is where extract come in. Sometimes what majority people are used to is that they just get it, open your data from your system. But let's assume your company has their data in different places. They have some data in Excel, and I can assure you some companies do have this. So just prepare your mind. They have their data in Excel. They have some of their data in SQL Server. They have some of their data in PDF. So how do you connect all this data into one? Like I said, 60% of your work as data is data wrangling. You're just trying to see how to create models to connect your data. Now, this is saying that you can get your data from different sources. The same thing here also. This is saying that do you want to get your data from a text or a CSV, a comma separated value? Yes, from a CSV. Can you get your data from where? This is just showing different sources where you can get your data. You can get your data from a table, assuming you have another sheet here and you have your data there. You can still get your data from that table. Now we are getting our data, because we are using an Excel file, we are getting our data from file, from Excel. But before we get there, you can also get your data from a folder. And this is a very key thing you must understand. If your company, probably you're in a sales company that generates data monthly, and you want to aggregate all this data into one, there's a folder, there's a file for January sales, there's a file for February, there's a February sales. There are different files, different Excel files, and you want to aggregate them so that the next time you want to do your visualization, an example visualization, you don't want to open any sheet. You just want to put the file into this folder and automatically Power Query will pick it up and update the data. You're also going to try this. But let's start with the Excel first. Let's say, okay, we want to get our data from Excel. We'll click on this. You might not see my other screen. I'm just going to my folder and I click on the data. So this is the Superstore data, a very popular data. All right. Now, can you see, let me confirm if you can see this screen, this navigator screen. Please confirm, someone confirm you can see.
Yeah, we can see.
Yes. So, okay, someone asked, do you have to be online to this? No, you don't have to be online. It's in your Excel. You don't have to be online to this, except you want to connect, you get a data from an online source. That's when you have to connect online. But this, you don't have to be online to do. Okay, now you click. So this is the sheet. This is the file we clicked on, and this is a sheet. Let me cancel this. I want you to understand something. So this is an Excel file. This is a sheet. You can have different sheets in an Excel file. So when you get your data from probably an Excel or CSV file, let's do the same thing. Excel file will show you the sheet. So this is showing you this February is a sheet on this file. This you can see XLX file. This is an Excel file. This is a sheet. If you have a different sheet on the file, you will see different sheet here. This is a sheet. Then you click on it. It will show you an overview of what is in the data. Now, it's telling you, do you want to load it or you want to transform it? We want to transform. Transform just means you want to clean your data. Don't forget that. Click on the transform data, you see, then it will open Power Query. Still loading. All right, so this is the Power Query interface. So when you have Power Query, this is the Power Query interface. This is where a lot of things happen. A lot of things happening, and there's so much that can happen here. There's so much that can happen here. Now, this is the data point. This is the data we loaded into Power Query. It has, I'll take you through the tabs one by one, but I want you to note the data. It has a role ID. The other ID is like a transaction data. I'm very sure if you're in the data space, you must have worked with a Superstore data very well. These are different columns. These are the different columns in the data set. Different columns in the data set. Now let's look at each tab of Power Query. So let's talk about queries. So when you load in your data into PowerPoint, each tab, each sheet is a query. So this is a query, this is a FEP sheet. So the data we load into Power Query is just as one sheet, and the name of the sheet is called FEP, and this is the sheet here. And this sheet has this column. I want you to, these are some of the key things. I'm repeating these things because sometimes when you start to work, these are some of the little things that confuse a lot of people. Sometimes people have a lot of sheets on their Excel file, and they are confused, like, where's this coming from? I thought I just loaded in one file, and I'm seeing different sheets. You must know that when you load in your file, Excel will bring out a different sheet on that file. All right, so let's move on. Let's take each tab of Power Query, and let's run through it. The first one is the refreshed preview, and you will see where this is very useful. I'll talk about that later. Let's talk about the query. The query aspects. We talk about your extraction. Extract means just collecting, getting data. You talked about your extraction. Let's move to manage columns. Yeah, you can see the options. The ribbon, this ribbon is manage columns. You can choose a column. This is just for you to choose a column, go to a column. This is simple. This is a column, like you know. You can remove a column. You can keep a column. If I highlight all this now, I'm just going into each of the ribbon. I can keep top row, keep bottom row, keep range row. Don't underestimate some of these things, because you might think that it's simple, but I can tell you that sometimes you don't even know. I need to keep, so sometimes you need to solve a problem, and all you just need to do is just keep the top row. Like I said, the key work of analysis is problem solving, is ability to use tools to solve problems. So Power Query is a tool for you to solve a problem. And there's sometimes you are going through a problem, and this keep row is just all. I was working with someone some Monday ago, and I think it was remove row was the issue. We just needed to remove a row, and we were struggling until we just remove this row, and everything is fine. It just shows you that sometimes these simple things, not knowing them, you won't be able to apply them if you don't know them. So keep them in your mind. You can keep row, you can keep the top row. It will ask you how many rows do you want to keep. Let's click on this. It's telling you, okay, do you want to keep, what numbers of rows do you want to keep? You want to keep the top 10 row. Automatically, it brings the top 10 row. Let's cancel this. Let's cancel this option. So you saw, whatever I do here, let's do this again. Click 10 row, okay. You can see it's added here. So whatever step you take in Power Query, it's been kept here in this Power Query editor. This segment here, this saves all the action you take on this data point. From the inception, all the action you've taken on this saves it here. And this is the key power of Power Query. It means that if I have this file is connected to the source where I got it from, I can just add to this file, and everything I've done will automatically be applied to it. Don't worry. It looks like it's difficult, but everything I'm saying, I'm still going to take you to the process. Power Query can look like, it looks more abstract, but just take your time, listen. If you have a question, type it in the chat box. I'll come back to read it, or just listen and you get it. Let's cancel the action. No, look, the last action we did was keep the first row. Look at it. I cancel it. It takes me back to my data point. Now let's go to remove rows. You can remove the top rows, the bottom row, alternate rows. You can do all these things. Just keep them. You can keep duplicates. You can keep errors. You can remove duplicates. We'll get there. Now you can also sort. Let's sort this. This button is for sort. Normal thing you must have learned in Excel. You can sort. So you can also split column. Please don't underestimate some of it. You can split column. So in Excel, in normal Excel, text to column is our normal split column. If you want to split a column, you can use text to column. For Power Query, you can also split column by delimiter. Let's split this column. Look at this column here. This other ID. Let's split it. You want to split the AC 26 and the 1425. Let's see how it goes. You click on the split column by delimiter. Delimiter just means what is separating your data. Now, we can see what we want to split. What is separating this data is the arch, what's the sign called? Is this
hyphen?
Hyphen. Thank you. Is this hyphen? Then you're saying you can customize to something automatically. It picks up the hyphen because I already highlighted this column now. And you can also split by the leftmost limiter, which means that it first starts from the left. You can also start by the rightmost limiter, which means that it starts from the right. You can say each occurrence of the delimiter. It means that anywhere it says hyphen, I want you to separate, which is the option here. Let's say, okay. You can see automatically separated this based on the delimiter. You can use other forms of a number of characters. You can say, let's cancel this. And let's cancel what we did. Let's cancel what we did. This is where we started from. We can say, okay, we want to split by numbers of character. Right. So numbers of character from, is it from the left, from far left or from far right? Let's start from far right. We want to get out these numbers away. Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. Okay. You can see automatically it splitted out this column. This splitted out the numbers from the far right, So this is just showing you that you can use different things to split your column. Keep this at your left hand because it will be useful as you work as an analyst. I can assure you that. Okay, now we'll talk about split column. You can also group by, and the group by is a very, very, very important key thing, a key tool when you are cleaning your data. Group by, so when you working in Excel and you're using a pivot table is basically just aggregating your data. Example, you have a table, for those who have used pivot table before, and if you have not, pivot table is a function in Excel. So pivot table is automatically just aggregating your data. It's grouping your data. You put in your, let's say state. You have a column that has to do with state, and you have a column that has to do with the amount the state have made. When you put in your state into, okay, let me put my Excel. Our time is fast spent. But for those who have this pivot table, basically pivot table is just aggregating your data. Group by also is a more like an aggregation. It's saying that you can group your data by a column. Let's use an example. Let's group our data by segment. Let's open our segment column. We have consumer, corporate, and office. Don't forget, we are just running through each of the ribbon. We talked about choose a column, remove column, keep. We talked about separating. We're talking about group by. So I want you, what I want you to do, what I want to send them, what I'm trying to do is that when you open your Power Query, you know what each function is meant, because that is where your power is. Your power is when you know what this is used for, then when you have a problem, you can know how to solve the problem based on the function you know. Want to group this whole data by segment. You click on your segment. I've clicked on my segment column, group by. Then it's telling me I want to group by. It has already showed here that because I highlighted the segment column, group by this column. What do you want to call the new column? What operation do you want to happen? Let's just use sum of sales. Let me explain this operation for you. So you want to go by segment. It will create a new column for you where you want to go by column. It's not saying that the new column, what do you want to name the new column? Let's say sales by segment. segment. The operation you want to do is sum, and you want to sum the sales column. There's a sales column. You want to sum the sales column. Let's say, okay. You can see what happened. It's aggregated, just like you do in Power Query. It's aggregated the whole column you see into segments, and it gives you the number of sales for each of the segments. Let's cancel the operation. So now, like I said, the goodbye is more like, when you're thinking of goodbye, just think as if like you're doing your pivot table. Yes, let's move on. So different forms of data type. Sometimes you're loading your data, and your header is in column 1. When we're loading this data, we don't have that issue. But sometimes you're loading your data, and your header, this header you're seeing here is in row 1. All you just need to do is use first column as header. Don't forget that you will surely encounter that. I can assure you that if you use Power Query very well, you surely encounter where your headers are in your first row. Then you need to leave them up as the header. The place values. So these are an example. Don't forget this. You can also replace value. You can say, all right, my data point, this is segment. I want to replace this corporate I'm seeing here with something else. I just come here, replace value. You say, okay, you want to replace corporate with what? With okay, Oladun, yes, I got a question. Let me finish this. So you want to replace the corporate. What is within, you want to replace the corporate with something else. Let's say, let's just use office. We have office there. What do you use? Manager. So, okay. So automatically it replaces everything that has to do with corporate. It replaces it with manager. Don't forget that. It's very, very key, very important as you go on in your data journey or whatever, even in any form of analysis. There sometimes you need to replace. An example is that you see in one of your columns a dirty data. Let's assume this corporate. You load in your data and you say that the corporate is not well spec. Instead of you having to one by one do those things, you just come here, replace value, look for what is not well spec, and it replaces automatically. It will replace any data point where you have that value. It will replace it. Don't forget this. It's very, very important in your journey. We've talked about the transform, talked about the group by. The group by, you are grouping by the columns. Now, this is segment column. You can see the option to give you different options. Which column do you want to group by? You are grouping by the columns, not row. Grouping by columns. You want to group by different columns. Yeah. All right, that's fine. Hope that answers your question on that. So let's go to combine, which is very key. Now, like I said, let's assume, let's import another data in. This is February. Let's import March data in. We go to, yes, for you to import a new data in, assume you're in Power Query, you're not in Excel. You've gone from Excel to Power Query. You want to increase a new data in, you can just come to this query aspect, right click, a new query from File, from Excel. Now I want to load in data. I want to explain merging so that you understand what we are doing. This is very key. Append and merging is very, very, very key. You need to understand it very well. The same thing, this is the sheets within this file. Click on it. It's the same thing. This is match data. Said okay. You can see we now have two queries, February and March. Yes, because you said I skipped the transform. Because I'm still in Power Query is where you transform. If I was in Excel, I don't want to close this. If I was in Excel, is in Excel that Excel will ask you, do you want to load into Excel directly or transform in Power Query? But because I'm in Power Query didn't ask me if I want to transform. It's just because I'm still in the place of transforming. That's why you don't have that option there. But we now have February. This is February file. This is March file. Now, your boss says that I want to see the 05 for February and March. You need to match them together. What do you do? There are two options. There's merge and there's append. Merge, let me just say, merge is when you bring a data side by side. Merge is like you're bringing the data side by side. Append is when you bring a data below. For this kind of data, we want to merge February and March. We want to join February and March. The option you are going to use is to append. So let me explain again. I don't know if I can use a notepad. Is there a white screen? Annotation. Okay, let me use annotation. Yep. So can you see my screen? I'm trying to use the annotation button so that I can explain this very well. All right. Now let's look at, I want to explain what's the difference between this merge query and append query. This is very, very key. And I'll spend my time here in that. So now this is your assume this is your February data. This is your March data. So when you want to merge query, means that you want to bring them this let's say this is February. So if this is March, these are data March. If you have to use this in merge query, it means that you want to say that, can you see my screen? You can see my annotation on my screen. So when you use the merge query is saying that, okay, this is February. I want to merge it side by side with March. If you want to use the append query, this is what you're happening. Saying February. I want to merge it under February, March. So both of them serve different purposes. Append is you're appending it underneath it. Merging, you are merging it beside it. And you must know where these two different queries is needed, because like I said, these are tools to solve problems. So where, using this example, I want someone to answer me. Now we have February and March, and both of them have the same size of, let me clean this, out. Clean out. I want someone to help me answer this question. Now we have February and March. Your boss wants you to aggregate the data together. He wants to see both February and March in an Excel file. But they were different file before. They were different file. You have February and March, but I don't want to see them in one sheet in Excel. That's the instruction your boss has given you. I want to see February and March in one sheet in Excel. What query will you use? Are you going to merge or are you going to append? Noting that both of them have the same number of columns. What are you going to use? Merge or append?
Oh, definitely append.
Append. Thank you.
I think anyone appear.
Yes. Anyone has an opposite answer? Okay, yes. So we append, which means that we are going to join February and March. February will be on top, March will be underneath it. Now let's do that. Append queries. Now we're saying two tables. Yes, we have two tables. A query is a table. Two tables. We have a table for March and for February. Now, so February, you click on the table to append. Now, automatically we are on February. I want you to note the option here. We are on February. We are on February. For you to append, it's now saying that, all right, append two tables. Which table do you want to append? The current table is February. You want to append March to it and say, okay. Just loading. Loading. All right, so for this February now, it has append March also to it. You can see the step here. It has append March to it. So if you come down here, you can now probably just change this to March and February and March. But one thing I want you to understand is to understand that difference. So when do you use merge queries? Merge queries, for those who understand relational database, there are sometimes you want your data to connect. You have your transaction table, you have your customer table. Your transaction table has customer ID. I was going to go on to this probably in another class. We will do this because it's also very key to know when to use this. But you know when to use this, joining two tables together. But those two tables must have the same number of columns. Don't forget that. For each append, you must have the same number of columns. You must have the same type in each of the columns. An example is that I can amend a table that this column here is a letter, and I want to amend the two together. It won't work like that. It must have the same data type, and it must have the same number of columns for you to append. For you to merge, it's a different thing. You are connecting two different tables together. I think we'll discuss that in another class so that we don't waste too much of our time. We've talked about combine parameters. We'll talk about that later. Data source setting basically is saying that when I open my data, Excel automatically has a link to where the data is. So as you can see, this is saying that this data is in my desktop, is in this file, the class file, and the name of the file is February. And that is how Excel intelligently can update your data. An example is that probably February, my February data is incomplete. I don't need to come to Power Query and add it. I just go to that file, where that file is saved, add the data to it, and automatically Power Query will pick it up because Power Query is connected. It's connected to the data source where the data is. All right, let's move on. Okay, you can change a new data source. You can get a new data source, recent data source. You can create your own data, enter new data. There are times when you get to probably in DAX, you see where you need to create this. But I've just gone through the Home tab. Let's run through the transform data. Basically, transform data is just where you do some things, almost the same thing with home data. You transpose your data, very, very key. Let's look at transposing data, very, very key. So transposing data is as simple as you turning your column, this column you are seeing, into a row, and your row into column. That is what transposing data is. Let's do an example. Let's use an example. Again, don't forget, these are tools for you to solve problems. There will be a time where you will need to transpose data. There are a lot of times that how to transpose the data. It's very key, especially if you are if you're analyzing a survey data. So if you're analyzing a survey data, you must know how to transpose because it's very, very key. Let's transpose. We click on the segment column, transpose. Look at what happened. I want to, even though it looks scattered, let's cancel this. Let's do something. Let's remove other columns. Let's remove other columns. Let's stay with one column so you can understand what transpose really means. The same option, you click on a column, remove columns. You can say remove. No, this is remove columns, remove other columns, which means that remove other columns I didn't select. You can see how fast that is, instead of you having to delete each of the column. Now let's go to transpose. I want you to understand transpose very well. You can see what happened. What was a row before now became column. Cancel. You can see there was corporate is a row. It's in a row before. Now when it transports, it became column. Very key, especially when you're analyzing a survey data. Just understand that. Let's move on because our time is fast spent. Use first, the same thing we talked about this reverse column. talk about this data type, change data type, field. So this field is key, very, very key. An example is that you have an empty column. You have an empty column here. We have an empty column here. We will not be able to do that. But the field is just saying that, okay, assuming I have an empty column in this space, let's say this standard is empty column, empty column, empty column. And I knew that keyword. I knew that what is meant to be in this column is what is in the first column. I can just say fill down, because we don't have empty column, we can't do that, but I want you to know why this is very important. Fill down, it will fill down with what is on the top. Example again is that let's assume standard is all this what you're seeing here is empty. Let me highlight it so that it will help you. All we are seeing here is empty, and I want to fill it with the first thing on this row. I can just say fill down. It will fill up everything because it's empty. Because it's not empty, you won't see that option there. Pivot columns. On pivot columns, there's pivot columns. Pivot columns. Pivot columns and can post, they more like do the same thing. I don't want to spend more time. We've talked about split column, extract. I'll talk about extract. We've talked about this extract before. Date and time, key. So these are just basic things just basic functions in Power Query. Let's go to add columns. So for Power Query, you can't edit the data here. So it's not like Excel where you can edit. You can't do any form of editing. The only editing you can do is you using these functions here. But you can create new columns. And this is one powerful key in Power Query, creating new columns. And you can create columns in different ways. For example, let's use the first forms of how to add new columns. Now, your boss has told you that, oh, look at this segment. I want you to turn corporate. Corporate means I don't want us to use corporate, head office, consumer. I don't want us to use this this column. I want us to turn it into segment. I want to turn it to ID that anyone that has corporate should be segment ID 1. Anyone that has home office should be segment ID 2. Anyone that has consumer should be segment ID 3. How many options do we have here? We just have 3. So consumer 3, corporate 2, home office 1. So what do you do? How do you do that? You can create a new, you can, like I told you, you can edit. You can edit and say, okay, let me just say a no. Or you can create new columns. Let's create a new column. And that you can do that using new column from example, which means that I want you to look at this column and do exactly appropriate what I do to this column to other forms of row. Let's start. From selection, I've selected this. From selection, Excel will open a new column. It's saying that, okay, now it's based on segments. Anytime you see corporate, I say, okay, I'll write 1. Anywhere I see home office, I write 2. Anywhere I see consumer, I write 3. Excel automatically now knows that, oh, from example, from what you've done, corporate, you mean anywhere I say corporate, you should write 1. Excel automatically fills up that with 1. Anywhere I see home office, I should write 2. Excel automatically fills that with 2. Anywhere I see consumer, I write 3. Excel automatically fills that with 3. You see what happened now. So let's say, okay. You can see all I just need to do, let's move this column close to what we used. When you open a new column like that, Excel will take it to the end of that column. Let's take it very close so that we can see if what we did is correct. State, city, what segment? Okay, yes, this segment. All right. Now, this is the new column we created. And we wanted to name it segment ID. Okay, now you can see all I just need to do was create an example for Excel for Power Query. Power Query automatically understand what I'm doing based on just one example. And that's why this column is named add new column from example. This is very, very key. corporate, automatically anywhere Excel says corporate, it names it 1. Anywhere Excel says consumer, it names it 3. Anywhere Excel says, what's the other option? Home office names it 2, just based on the example I gave it. You can create a new, that's one option of creating a new column. You can create a new column by custom writing a formula. We won't do that today. Let's just show an example. You can also use the same thing we used. By example, saying that this more like formula. I won't want us to do that so much. But I can write the formula. I say if. You
don't have to go far.
Yes, don't worry. But let's not go to with that side. It's not complex, but it's just showing you that you can use different ways to create new column. You can use example, you can use custom column, you can use invoke custom function. The same thing. This also has to do with formula. All right, so conditional column. You can also use conditional column where you want to create a new column based on a condition. Let's do that as an example. Let's name this sales 2. So it's not saying that, okay, what do you want to base this column on? Okay, you want to base it on sales. I want to take into log of that. If sales is equals to, no, let's use greater than. This is you creating a new column based on condition. If you remember, if I used to Excel very well, conditional statement, conditional formatting, the if statement, some ifs, average ifs, those are conditional statements. Saying that, okay, I want to create a new column based on conditions. If sale is greater than, let's say greater than 300, what should be the output? What should be the output if sales is greater than 300? Let's say we want to give them incentive. Incentives. No, incentives. So we want to give them incentives if their sales is greater than 300. Else, let's just say else means that after I've checked this, anything that is not greater than 300, what do you want me to give? And you can add a lot of clause. You can write a lot of conditional statements, but we're just going to write one conditional statement. Let's just go to else. Else, we're not going to give them incentive. No incentives. Incentives. So, okay. No, let's remove, because let's delete this because we're not writing anything. Let's say, okay. Now, Excel already created a new column, and the column is based on this. So this person bought more than 300, we give them incentives. This person bought less than 200, we're not giving them incentive. You see how you can create new column based on different ways. We've looked at custom from example, we've looked at conditional columns. Index column is just you naming each of the column. Index, look at it. You created a new column with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just indexing it. Let's remove this. And now, the same thing also applies here, almost the same thing, except and we've talked about this. We've talked about each of these on the view, basically the same thing. So this view is key. An example is that if you want to check the quality of your data, you can use this view to show, let's say, custom profile. This custom profile will show you what is in your, you can see it's just breaking down. There's a count is 280, error. Data, you want to check the quality of your data. Are there empty spaces? Is there any form of error? Is there any form of, you just want to do an overview of your data. This custom profile is key. Saying that, look at this, just give you a statistics of the data of this column we just highlighted here. You can also use column distribution. It's very, very key also to see how your column, what is the distinct, what's unique, what's distinct, what's unique, and also just to show, these are just to show you the quality of your data. It's very key because as you analyze, like I said, the quality of your analysis is based on the quality of your data, and Power Query gives you an option to check the quality of each column. You can see this column has 112 distinct and 46 unique. You can see. All right, let's move on. Now we've talked about each of these ribbon. Our time is fast spent. We'll talk about each of these ribbon. Now I expect you to go back, get a data. I'm going to share this data if you want to use this data, and try each of these options. Just try and see how it goes. Try each of these options and try it and see if you make mistakes. Go back to the video, watch again, because it's your ability to use these things. That's when you have a problem, your mind will just know, tell you that, yes, I can use group by to solve this problem because I know group by does this. But if you don't know group by does this, you won't be able to apply, you won't be able to solve that problem at that point in time. And that is the key of, like I said, problem solving. Now we'll talk about all this. Let's talk about, so when you talk about Power Query, what powers Power Query is called the M code. So everything I'm doing here, everything I've done that you are seeing saved here is powered by the M code. And we are not going to talk about M code, it's more complex, but you must understand what is happening in the back end. So when I say I remove, let's go back, let's just remove all this survey. Let's remove all this, let's remove all this, let's remove this, let's remove all this. Now, this is our data. Let's remove this column distribution. This is our data. I want to remove this row, remove column. Look at this, look at the function tab. This is the function tab. Look at what happened here. I clicked on the remove column. What Power Query did was table.remove column, remove change. You just saying that to remove this other ID. That's what you remove. So this is the code that does that operation you did. Sometimes as you advance, sometimes you will need to edit this code yourself. That's why you need to understand what is powering it in the back end. Sometimes you just need to edit the code yourself, but you might not be able to get there now. But after understanding, sometimes I think for future, I think for present also. Right. Now let's go back. Let's come back to this area here, and I want you to understand this area here. So these are the steps. Whatever actions you take on Power Query, it will save the step. So let's look at the source. The source is saying that you got your file from your desktop class file, which is my desktop, your class file. Anywhere you save your data from, Excel takes the source. The next thing it does is that it has navigation. Navigation is just normal, is a default step in Excel. And it promotes, like I told you the other time that sometimes when you put in your data points, you will see that your header is in the first row. You can use first row as header, but Excel sometimes automatically promotes it, which is the next step it did. It promoted the first row to the top. You can see as I'm going through the steps, the action are taking place. Then it changed. Sometimes Excel will automatically have this 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's remove this column. Excel will automatically have this 4. Immediately you load your sheet, Excel will do this operation on your sheet automatically. And sometimes Excel will not promote the header. You have to promote it yourself. So this is more like the basic you see sometimes. And sometimes you just see source navigation. So from there henceforth, anything you do to your data, it will be added here. We remove this column. You can see, you see remove column, remove column. All right. This is the last step. Remove column. It does remove this column. It actually remove column. So whatever operation you do in Power Query automatically saves it. And why is it saving it? It's saving it because if you update your data, you don't need to do the step again. Power Query will automatically apply those steps you saved on that data. That's the beauty of Power Query. If you have a dirty data, that's where transform comes in place. If you have a dirty data, your data is from different source. You got it from Excel, you got it from online, everything is coming together, and you apply your step to it. So the next time you're adding more data to it, you don't need to do the same thing. Excel will automatically apply the same step you've applied to it. I hope you understand that. So that is the key thing. That's the power of Power Query. Now let's load. I'm still going to come back to Power Query, but let's load into Excel. So this is more like abstract now. Let's load into Excel. Let's assume now we've cleaned our data. Our data is clean. We've removed our empty spaces. Let's do an option. Now we need to separate the numbers at the end of product. That's what our boss instruction he gave us. He just want us to separate the product ID. We want to get the number out because it's a unique number. Now, what do we do? Who would help me separate this column? Which option are you going to use? Anyone wants to try? We want to separate the numbers out of this product ID before we load it into Excel. Anyone?
Sorry, come again.
We want to carry out an operation now. This column, we want to separate the numbers from this letter. What function do we use in Power Query?
I guess
think we can use that split column.
Split column.
Yeah.
All right.
So
what do I do next? What do I do next? So instruct me. Split column, what do I do next?
Delimiter by far right.
Do I use number of characters? Do I use position? What do I use? I'm listening.
Can you click on that? Let's see what's coming up.
When I click on delimiter, you must get the case study. I don't want to separate everything. I just want to separate this number, just this number from the product ID. So when I click on the delimiter, what delimiter does is that.
Okay, but type in the chat now.
Okay, please you can speak. Just instruct me. You can use the mic and speak. But, I don't have to go to the chat for now.
Split column by number of characters.
Number of characters. Okay, we are not using the limiter again. All right, split column, number of characters. So how many characters are we using? And which option? Is it from the far left, from the far right?
It's going to be from the far right since we're taking out the numbers.
Okay, how many characters are we looking at?
So if it's the entire number, then it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 numbers.
9. Someone said 8. Okay, let's try 9.
8.
9 is picking up.
It's 8. 9 is taking off the hyphen as well.
8.
Okay, now you knew I said sometimes you need to be able to understand what is powering Power Query. Look at when we splitted the column, what Power Query did. Table split, and it wrote the column. You can see 0, 9. So instead of me to go back again, I'm just telling you, sometimes you need to edit the code if you know what is happening. Instead of me to go back and say, oh, go back to, and probably delete this, I can just say, I come back to the code that Power Query have written and say 8. Automatically, it will see what happens. You can see that it took out the 8. So,
good evening. Can I ask a question?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, now that you are trying to split, the product ID from you have characters and numbers. Now,
Yes.
if the numbers are not the same, let's say like you have characters and numbers. One has 3 characters, the other has 4 characters, and the numbers that are attached, they are not the same thing. How do you now do that?
Okay, so that's why there are a lot of options here. So if the numbers are not the same, probably you can use delimiter to sort out. Let's move this. Let's cancel this. Let's cancel this, and let's do the same thing with delimiter. Delimiter, but we just want to remove the numbers. So if you have to click each occurrence of the delimiter, it will remove everything, everywhere there's a delimiter, it will separate it. No, it's a far right delimiter. So it will go to the right and see what's the first place the delimiter occurred, then it will separate it. you can see the same thing happened. So let's assume now that there are different numbers. You can now use delimiter. And okay, let's assume you don't have delimiter. There are different forms of position. You can say position. There are different forms of way you can split data. That's why you have these options here. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Makes sense.
You can see, let's look at this code. Look at the code here. It's saying you can see the code, you can see like it's delimiter. If I change this now, it will affect this stuff because let's say you see an error because look at it can't split because of it's not the so that's why I say you must understand the code behind it so that for every options I click here, there's a code that happens, something happens, change type, saying that I'm changing split column by delimiter. Because I didn't specify this number I didn't name the new column I wanted to do, I said automatically gave it a name, but I did too. Now we are done with transforming our data assumption. We've cleaned our data, we're saving our step. Now we want to load it into Excel. That's where our boss will see it. Your boss will not see what is happening in Power BI, in Power Query. All you just need to do is close and load. Close and load. Yes.
I can't see where you do that too.
Okay, I'll go back again. All right. This is the data. Let's go back. Let me go back to this is the Power Query. So you just come here, look at this close and load. This option here beside close and load. So it means that I'm done with transforming our data, which is the second point of ETL. We transform our data, we've removed what we need to remove, we've added what we need to add to, we've done everything we need to, we've connected our data, we've amended our data. I mean, probably we have these two. So don't forget, okay, I think we've removed it. We've amended our data. What we need to make, we've made. We've done everything we need to do. Now we want to load it into Excel and create a visualization and create a report and do an analysis on it. Then we close and load. I've done this before. So now this is it. Excel will show you the queries you have in your Power Query. Because we loaded two data, which is February and March. Excel will show you, this is February now. This is the data we've worked on. You can see it here. Now I can now create a pivot table. I can do anything I need to do. This is also March. Excel will show you March. The instruction my boss gave was that we join February and March together. So I don't want to be seeing March and February and March together. So let's go back to Power Query and go and do exactly what our boss gave us instruction to do. Instead of me coming to Excel, I'll copy March. I go under and I'll copy. And now copy. And now add. After I've copied March, after I have my February data, I will now copy and paste. You don't need that. That may be a lot of errors. What you just need to do is come here. Let's rename this because we want to merge it. You can say February and March so that we don't confuse ourselves. February and March. February and March. Now we would append it. Don't forget, append is you are joining under, and it must have the same number of columns. It also must have the same column type. Appending two tables. You can append 2 or 3 tables. 2 tables. Want to append March to it. Say okay. Now we've appended March to it. Someone is saying, how do I know if I appended March to it? Let's go to the date. But this is, it's my particular data, but we've appended March to it. So because the date is, it's not a March, I just use the name March and February. The data covers more than that. But immediately you append, you have joined the two data together. So I don't need this again because I've appended it to this. I can just remove this out. I can delete it. Delete it. Because it's referenced. Oh, we can't delete it because it's referenced. Because I joined it to this table, we can't delete it. I can just, if I don't want it to load, if, for example, I want to load into my Excel, I don't want to say March. My boss just want to say February and March. I can right click on it and let me see the reference. Let's see reference. Okay, let's delete it. Let's delete this. There's an option. Okay, there's an option where you just I don't want it to load. Let me see. Properties. No. Okay, let me know time. But there's an option where if you don't want the data to load in, you will just let me see. Name the reference. No, I'm not saying it. But let's just close and load it. So this March and February contains, so I've appended the two data together. So that's what you're seeing here. You can see so much of the data to this point. 281. 281. That's the two data amended. Then from now, I can now say, oh, I want to do my pivot table, insert pivot table, and do my analysis. So the core of Power Query is data wrangling, data manipulation, data transformation, and this is a powerhouse on its own. And even me as a person, sometimes I'm still learning so much about Power Query because it has so much power, especially when you understand the code behind it, which is the M code. Let's go back again, which is the M code. How to manipulate the code. That is a core Power Query. Data cleaning. So, like I said, 60% of our work as analysts is cleaning data. And the best place to clean your data, even when you're working with Power BI, when you're trying to visualize your data, for those who work with Power BI, you know that you have to load into Power Query first. Cleaning from Power Query is the key thing. So let's do an example. Let's show a key example here. Now, can I share my old screen? Okay, let me share my old screen so that I want to explain something as we round up. I'm going to share my old screen.
Sorry, Mr. Manuel, I have a question.
Yes, I'm with you. Please go on.
So, if you're comparing two sales data for two different periods, yes, right? Given what you've explained to be those functions of append and merge.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to understand why it has to be append and not merge. Well, either of them depend on what our boss wants to see, right? But is there a way you can also show us what it would look like if you merge the data, which I'm believing merging would bring the both information side by side as against at top and bottom, right? So if you can maybe show us an example of what the merge looks like, which if you compare two data from two different period, you should have them side by side as against top and bottom. Maybe we'll see what that looks like as well.
Okay, right. That's fine. I would explain that. So let me use.
Hello, sorry, please. Can I ask a question too?
Yes, you can speak on, please.
Okay, now when you were trying to load the data, yes, I discovered that you have the February on a table on its own on a different file.
Yes.
You have March on a different file.
Yes.
Let's say, for instance, that I have just one single file.
Yes.
But on different sheets. I have February, I have January, I have March, I have April on different sheets.
Yes.
Is there a way Power Query can merge or append everything at the same time?
All right. Thank you.
On different, or I have to extract first
and
save individually.
All right. So look at this table. Let's assume we've not done anything to this table. This is what you are saying on different sheets. This is February, this is March on different sheet, right? Is what you're saying? So let's assume we now have August on this sheet as a no, January. Now you want to load. You want to load this into the. When you load these things into, make you load this. Let's save this book 5. I've saved. I'm careful not to. Okay, book 5. We're going to load this into Power Query now. Okay. Let's get that book 5 we did now into, and this is still the file. Let's open a new file, a new document. I will answer the first question. I just want to answer this very simple. In fact, let's go to data. We want to get the data from an Excel file. And this is the book 5 we saved now. And I want you to see how Power Query would open it up. You can see that Power Query open, each of the sheets is open here. So that's why each of the sheets is open as a query. So all you just need to do if you are to merge them together is just use your append. Let's look at this. Let's transform it. Let's transform so you can see. I think I explained this earlier, and it can be confusing sometimes if you don't understand how Power Query interprets a sheet. Did we just click on one? Okay, I think I click on transforming one. Let's go back. This card. Okay, get data. Let's do that again. Okay, let's do this again. Book 5. This sheet here. This sheet is nothing is here. We have February. We have March. We have February and March like we did. So these are the sheets within this file. Let's open this file again. Where's the file? 5. Look at this is what we opened. This sheet, this is but you can see this January, this March, this February. When you go to Power Query, where is it? You can see this is January, February, March. These are the ones underneath, these are the connection underneath it. Let's just forget this. Yeah. So for me to load everything inside, I can click on one and load it inside. But for me to load everything inside, I just click on the O file, which is book 5, and transform. I think that this should load everything within book 5. So if peradventure on your sheet you have February, you have your January, February, March, it will come as a sheet on its own. It will come as a query, and then you will see it here. So, okay, this let's expand question. This table, let's expand it. Oh no. Sorry. I think I need to work on that. That sheet contains unnecessary data. But the key work here is that if you have a sheet like this, if you have a file like this one, if you have a file like this, when you upload it, if you have a file like this, an example, probably your company has their January file here, has their March file, and has their February file. Maybe you upload it into Power Query. Each of these sheets is a query on its own. So if you want to amend, you just need to amend each of the queries together. Automatically, you have the aggregate of those data. That answers the question. So I can show it
it's bringing too much of errors on that end. So to answer the first question, okay, for amending, right? So let's try for amending. For mending. So for mending, an example for mending is where I'm trying to see how better I can explain. Fine. Yes. Right. This is power. Let me close this ground. So there are different times where you need your data to connect together. The example I gave when I was explaining ID. So you might have a transaction table, a table that contains transactions. You have another table that contains customer data, two different sheets. Then you want to see, okay, a customer data contains customer ID. Let me explain, and this would understand a customer name, a customer name, a customer ID, just a customer ID, so we don't spend time. A customer phone number. This sheet contains the customer information. Another sheet contains the transaction the customer did. But the old, let's say, sales, sales, but it always contains the ID, the customer ID. Customer ID, I just want to use as an example, ID 1. And this customer ID, customer name, Emmanuel, as an ID 1, and my phone number 082. Now, so where does amend come in place? This sheet only contains customer ID. I don't know the name of this customer. I need to connect to this sheet that contains the name of customer to know the name of the customer. And that is where amend comes in. Let's use this sheet as an example. Let's save this. Save. I just want us to see this I just want to use this as an example to explain that where the amend comes in. So the different amending, everything has different use case. Amend is for you to join two data together up and down. Merge is side by side, and let's just talk about the use case of that one and call it a day. Later we'll expand more on some of the things we've spoken about. Let's say that as merge. Okay. New sheet. File. Image. Let's import it. Select. Okay, I think I know where the error is the other time. Sorry. The person has it. So you need to click yes. So if you want to select multiple sheets, so I think that's like why I didn't do the other time. You can select multiple sheets. It will load in the different sheets. Please note that. Transform data. The two sheets in the file we've created. Loading. All right. As you can see, one sheet, which is a query in Power Query. A sheet in Excel is a query in Power, is stamped query in Power Query. So now, this is the sales this customer made. This is the customer name. Now, I want to bring the custom thing is based on their ID. His ID is a column that is similar between both, and that is where merge comes in place. So let's now merge this data. merge. That's like merge group. Now, what do I want to merge with? I want to merge with sheet one. What is common between both of them? This customer ID. Okay. Now it is not telling me it has merged it. So what do I cannot choose? What do I want to return? I just want to return. So it's not it has merged these two, but I want to return just the customer name. I want to say the name of the customer who bought these goods. You can see Emmanuel. I brought in from here, from this sheet that contains the customer name, I brought it into this transaction sheet. So that is where merge came in place. Merge comes in place. It's like you're trying to connect two data points with, they must have a similar colon, a colon that connects both together, which is called, in relational database, is called primary key and foreign key. If you work with SQL very well, you understand that. But I've showed that is where merge comes in place. There's a different use case for append, there's different use case for merge. I believe you understand that. That answers your question. I'll ask the question.
Okay.
Yes, all right. So I will take, let me just call it a day here. I believe you understand Power Query. You might not be able to, I think in the next class, we'll take a case study, a real business case study using a general data. I'm not going to use a complaint data, a normal data we have. We will clean that data using Power Query, using some of the things you've learned. Now, what I expect you to do is go back, take any dirty data, try to just use all this functions I've mentioned. When you work in any company, they're going to have different forms of data. You need to bring them together. They're going to have different forms of data. You need to connect them together. They are going to have customer data. They're going to have product data. So customer, you have the customer data. How do you know the product the customer bought? You use the ID of the product. You use it to connect to the product data and bring in the product. The same thing I did here. That's when I made merge come in place. Append, they have different January sales, February sales. You need to bring them, you need to append them into one and load them into Excel. Use that also. Goodbye and other stuff. So I expect you to go back again, use this function and practice it very well. In 2 hours class, you might not know everything, but if you practice that foundation, understanding of data wrangling will help you. It will help you so well in your data journey. I hope you learned something. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm very sure we'll still see another before the end of this challenge. Do have a lovely week. Alberto, please hand over back to you. I need to run somewhere now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Emmanuel, thank you. It's been a very insightful session so far. Unfortunately, I was able to listen to most of the discourse we've had, and I'm also excited that a lot of our participants indeed have learned something new today. Just as the earlier stated, based on our principle and our culture within the community, you just need to practice. You need to practice. The more you practice with data sets, the more you know about Power Query. So what we have just seen is just part of it. So the more you try things yourself, the more you discover other aspects of Power Query. And you always need this. There's no way you will, particularly if you are a core data analyst. For finance analyst here, you may not always have to do anything with Power Query because probably your organization, your data are already refined or cleaned up, and all you just do is to communicate to stakeholders. But for you you are core data analyst, or probably you want to build your portfolio, of course, you have to go and look for data. You have to go and look for data sets. And when you get data sets, that is what you will use to clean up to now get the outcome you need. So there's no way you won't need this skill. So it's very important. Let's go back to watch again. I just want to quickly do what we do every week, and I'm going to do that again this evening. It's just to show us what to expect in the coming week, particularly for as many of us that are currently part of the challenge. So today is day 14. Today is day 14, and what we have discussed is Power Query and advanced data analysis function. Fortunately, we couldn't really get into some of these functions, but you get to see them in the month ahead. In the week ahead, rather. And that's what we'll be looking at in day 16. So HLOOKUP, VLOOKUP, index match function, choose function, and the likes of them. You need them particularly for some of us that will go through the financial modeling route. You need some of those advanced data functions. So that you'll be learning. And of course, by the time we have live experts function for next week, which is a bit advanced, like macros, VBA. Of course, VBA will do it. Visual Basic for application is still relevant in today's world, but most companies, there are more automations in Excel now that a VBA programming or whatever may not be necessary, but we introduce you to it in case you encounter it in an assessment or something like that, and then we'll look at DAX function. But what I'm saying is, even though all we have discussed today is Power Query and it's just a little of Power Query we've been able to touch, the learning doesn't end here. Please confirm you can still hear me. Am I still audible? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
The learning doesn't end here.
Yes,
You need to go back. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. You need to go back to learn more on your own. So the assessment for week 2 is sales data analysis. We have provided this data set for you. But one thing about this data set that you are to use for your week 2 analysis is clean data. Is clean. The data is clean already. However, you can check it and be sure. But as much as I have checked, based on my own due diligence, is clean. So you are expected to use your pivot table knowledge from last week expert session, as well as what you have learned on day 12 this week, to come up with that report and make your report dynamic as possible. That's what you have for the whole of tomorrow. So once you are done, just upload in your folder. We are coming to where all of this will be needed in week 4. So for next week, you will get.
Sorry, Mr. Toby.
Yeah, you said?
I don't know. Has the
Right.
week 2 information been updated yet? Because as of yesterday, I checked. I'm not sure week 2 was updated into the folder yet.
Week 2, is it the week 2 link or the course or what exactly?
No, the week 2 assessment or assignment or task
it's there
to be submitted. Yeah.
So when you check the updates, what we shared with you in the group, don't refer to the old links. So the link to week 2 folder is what you have in that update. I'm going to reshare it again tonight. Okay. Emeka, you can check now. This one, you can check now and drop it afresh. So that week 2 folder has the data set you need for week 2. Week 1 folder is still there, but you as a person, you have access to both week 1 and week 2 because it's open to everyone. Like the rule to access that folder is open to all. So you can access that folder. And what you need, when you open that file, okay, let me even see if I can do that while on this call to show you. It means we may just exceed our time a little bit, but just give me a few minutes to do that for some of us that are here, and particularly for those who watch this afterwards. Just give me a few minutes. Let me go into that folder. I have it in my file here, so we can. But what you will see it inside Google in terms of your Google form. But let me see if I can. Hello, please confirm you can hear me. You can still hear me. Hello, can you still hear me? Hello?
Yes,
we can hear you.
Thank you. I'm just trying to load the file. And my network. Okay, fantastic. Give me a few minutes. The network is just trying to. Okay. So the screen I'm sharing right now is what you are likely to see, though for me, I'm seeing it as an admin, but you have access to all of this, both the media folder, which are some of the things we've uploaded previously. These are your folders. Every participant has their folders except those who join later, but everyone has their folder up to the 49th person. So, and we've given every one of you a link. So you all have your access. Your personal information are in your folders. So the third folder is your workbook folder. So this week one that has the exact challenge workbook and all the recommended links. So we've downloaded all the practice assessment sheet for you to just refer to directly. But for week two, it's not that much. So these are just conditional formatting. That's the 11 pivot table. That was 2 days ago. What if analysis practice. So this is the main challenge workbook. So you should have access to this. And when you click on it, what you will just see, what you will see here is the file that you are to work with. So we've arranged it. I remember someone reached out to me. I was asking, what are they to do with this black thing? So week two practice text, when you open it, we actually hid other weeks. So right here, you can see week one. So you can download this and use it. So this text function, you needed it in that should be, the text function is part of what you needed for day 9, day 10, like that. So, sorry, I know you might still be seeing that screen. I'm going back there now. Got it. So text function, if formulas, VLOOKUP, data validation, conditional formatting, pivot table, and then this is week 2 assessment. This is the data set for week 2 assessment. Can you still see my screen?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so this data, it's not, just as I said, if you load it into Power Query, you realize that it's not dirty. Like virtually all the data sets are in their appropriate format. And how you can confirm, for example, look at these dates, just as I told you sometimes ago, if you put year frac now, and you put it there, you should get 2018. Oh, yeah, you should get 2018. This is Google Sheet, but as I said, most of the formulas in Excel also works here. If this date is not in the right format, just like as it is now, let me put something like this here. Okay, because I'm in the cloud, there's an automatic correction, but let me just interrupt it. I would undo it. 2018. Okay, I know why it's just correcting itself that way. It's because I'm online. So, but what I'm just trying to show you, I remember I once said, I spoke about it. I want to load it in Direct Excel because you need to, sorry, I'm not taking additional class, but just to illustrate something to us this evening. Let me just share my entire screen so that you can see what I'm trying to do. So this is Excel now. I'm not showing us from Google Worksheet. So the same thing, just for you, I just want to be double sure that this data is correct. So I'm converting this to it's correct now. So, but if I pick it now and put, let me say, an hyphen, this is not the regular. Okay, why is it? Oh, sorry, hyphen connect is a dot. Let me use dot just to interrupt that data. So you see that it will show me either value, value definitely. So this value error, and that simply means the values in this formula is the wrong type. So Excel doesn't identify dates with points, with this dot. So at times when you download from SAP, for we that use financial data mostly, what you see is that your dates automatically comes in dot form, and you are expected to use find and replace, which you have done from week 1. To what? To replace that, you just find dots and then replace with this. And once you select that, oh, sorry, my cell is in something else. So you place your cell here. You just use your find and replace function to correct that, and it gives you the correct thing back. So just to tell you that the data we have used to give you as assessment is okay. So what you're expected to do is you understand this data yourself. You have JE code, you have store, country, region, dates, items. These are the items you are selling. These are the salesperson. These are the dates the sales were made. These are the region. You understand? These are the country. These are the store. You understand? And then we have the list price and the actual price. So this is the list price. This is what we eventually sold. You understand? On the store is 80. We sold 79. We listed 80. David Shina sold at 54. Because the reason why they are selling at a reduced actual price is because they are discounts, right? So they are discounts, and then that's why, and these are discounts. So what we said is, look at this data, take it to your pivot table and communicate anything. So we don't want to give you specific measure. I would have said, okay, give us the total number of, what's the total number of salesmen from Australia, you know, and how much did they sell in all? Using actual price, assume a quantity. Of course, by the time you run your pivot table, you know quantity. Quantity is not decided here, but everything you see here, this is a data set with about, let me check the number of rows again, about 2,339 rows, right? Yeah, 2,340 rows. So right here, it means we made a total sale of 2,340, but across different regions, different countries, by different salesperson, different product, within different period. So you look at it yourself as someone who has learned these functions and all that, come up with any information. So by the time we are reviewing your submission, we will check to be sure that, of course, what you are communicating is based on your findings. So we are not giving you specific direction. Your capstone will come with specific direction in week 4. And the data will be far more than this. We'll give you a data that is in maybe tens of thousands. So we want you to spend enough time to do everything you have been taught. So that will give you more broader opportunity to explore your skills much more, or refer to previous learning to fix it. But this one is quite minimal. It's just 2,340 and it's clean. So all you need to do is to plug it into your pivot table and begin to extract your report. And of course, a standard report will come with a chart, and we want you to make your chart dynamic. We taught you how to do all of this. So that's just it. That's the work. I believe, Jerry, it's clear now, right? So I don't waste extra time. It's already past.
Yes, sir. Very clear. Very clear.
Awesome. So thank you, everyone. So that's just that. Let me just complete what I was doing, and then we call it a night within the next 3 minutes. So aside from that,
sir, please,
go ahead, please.
How can I have access to the previous lessons? Because I'm just joining today, and I have so much interest in the previous lessons.
Are you in the paid group?
So I don't know if I can have access.
Sadiq, are you in the paid group? Are you in the paid group?
No, sir.
So that's the challenge. The challenge is actually running real time in the paid group, but we have made week 1 and week 2 open to all participants. Next week, we may not open this up. For next week, we are looking at macros, VB, and DAX function. But what I can assure you is that we are running the next cohort in October, along with a more advanced challenge, looking at SQL and Power BI. So those two will run at the same time. But for those who couldn't participate in this Excel cohort, they will have the opportunity to be part of the Excel cohort for that cohort too, because you need the foundation in Excel before you can go into